When introduced as the successor to the front-engine Daytona, the Boxer represents a remarkable evolution as Ferrari's first mid-engine flagship. As Ferrari's response to Lamborghini's stunning Miura, the Boxer did not disappoint. Featuring a 5-liter, horizontally opposed 12-cylinder engine longitudinally mounted in line with the transmission, giving the Boxer a low center of gravity near the center of mass, and acres of torque with great drivability. Clothed in suitably rakish bodywork by Pininfarina, the Boxer was a stunner, with the 512 BBI representing the ultimate development of the Boxer line, thanks to the introduction of fuel injection to aid both low-end torque and emissions compliance. Today, the Boxer remains a dramatic and exciting car that is both masculine yet not overly demanding to drive. The Boxer was first introduced in 1973. And it started with the 365 BB, and the later variations were 512 BB and 512 BBI. Now, 512, like this one, stands for 5-liter, 12-cylinder Berlinetta Boxer, and it's called a Boxer because instead of a V12, it's a flat 12, and the pistons go towards each other, so it reminded people of boxers boxing, and that's where it got its name. And then the I is for injected, which really helped these cars with torque and power, and it makes them so fast, they're like a rocket ship to drive. To open the rear end and expose the engine on a Boxer is a little interesting. So like most Ferraris, there's a lever right here that you pull, but then you have to go and push a button back here that releases the lever. And then you pull up the entire rear end to expose the wonderful looking flat 12 engine. And I love how this thing opens. It's very dramatic looking. Now, the reason you don't see a lot of Boxers in California is because they were never made US EPA and DOT approved. So they weren't imported new into the US for the US market. Enzo Ferrari at the time in the mid-70s when these cars first came out, the US had a lot of new EPA and DOT regulations and a 55-mile-an-hour speed limit. So Enzo didn't see a need to try and conform his 12-cylinder Ferraris to the US market. It was just too difficult, and he figured the 6- and 8-cylinder cars would suffice. But these cars were usually imported years later, and they were made to conform to the US regulations. However, because California has such strict regulations, out of all the states, it's the most strict and restrictive. So you basically never see California legal Boxers. But this car, because it was imported into the US in 1994 and made to conform back then, it's titled and registered in California and California legal, which makes it very special because there's not many out there. And to take a different one and conform it to US or to California regulations is extremely expensive and difficult. This car was fully serviced 2 years ago, and to service a Boxer, you have to take out the whole engine to access everything. So it's one of those large and expensive services that when you're buying a car like this, you want to make sure it's been taken care of, because those services become a while you're at it. So while the engine's out and it's getting the belts done, you might as well rebuild the water pump and this distributor, do a whole top end service. So when this car was done, it was about a little over $20,000. And that may seem extremely expensive, but on a car like this, it makes sense. You know, when you get into the Mondials and the cars of lesser value that have the same large services, it becomes irrational to do such a huge service on a car that doesn't have the same value as something like this. So, but it's always important to find one that's been taken care of, that not only has a major service done, but has good service history, and it's been taken care of well its whole life. The nice thing about this car is it has a well-known history documented all the way back to 1994 when it was imported to the US. So you know where this car has been its whole life. The clutch on this car is very heavy, and having driven quite a few Boxers before, it's just kind of a Boxer thing, is the clutches are not progressive at all. They're basically on-off, which at low speeds It takes some getting used to, that's for sure. But once you get up past second gear, it's really not an issue because just the power of this car alone and how it drives is incredible. I mean, I love driving this car. It's a heavier car. The steering is heavy and the clutch is heavy, but part of what that does is, especially in corners, it just makes you feel very glued to the ground. You don't feel squirrely in corners, you don't feel loose in the rear end, even though it's a heavy rear end car. So I like that it has the tighter, heavier steering and just massive power. I mean, it quickly gets to red line, it shifts smoothly, and the sound of that flat 12 behind you as you're driving is awesome. One of the more fun games you get to play getting in and out of all these different cars is, where's the door handle? So a car like this, you get in, and when you're trying to get out, door handle isn't this, it's not here, it's not down here, it's actually hidden up here. And it's just a little silver lever that you get to pull. But that's one of the things I love about all these different Ferraris is you never know where they're going to put it. They try and hide it, which makes sense because they're trying to keep the body and the interior streamlined and sleek and classy. So a lot of times having a big clunky handle just plastered right there is not the best look. So it's definitely style-wise nice to see a clean cut door panel, but you never know where they're going to put the door handle. Like on the outside, it's just this little black lever on the outside of the door, and when you first look at it, that's not where you'd expect a door handle. But once you get used to Ferraris and their little quirks, it becomes kind of a fun game. This car came new with the books and tools, like every Ferrari, and it's always nice with the older cars when it still has the original books and tools with it. And you know it's original because the books come with the warranty card that has the VIN number of the car plus the name of the dealer and first owner, so you know that it's original to this car. These cars also came with tools, but it was a jack kit. So this whole kit has the jack and everything in case you get a flat tire. It has a thin spare in here in case you get a flat. And then it also came with tools. And what I find interesting about this car is I've seen tool rolls, a lot of different tool rolls, but this one comes with a leather pouch to keep your leather pouch of tools in. So it's kind of an extra little step to get to your tools in case something breaks down. But it's always interesting to see the different options in these cars because that's not something I see a lot with these cars. It's just one of those things that somebody chose when new because they thought it was a cool option, and it's still with the car, which is always fun to see. I find the interior of this car to be quite comfortable. There's enough room for me. I have ample foot room and the shifter's in the right area. It works great for me. But if you're a lot taller than, I'm 5'7". If you're much over 6 foot tall, it might be a little bit cramped. But if you're under 6 foot, it's a great and comfortable experience, and the seats are really comfy, which always helps. Plus, this car has AC. And living in Southern California, where you want to go on nice drives in the summer, it can get really hot if you don't have air conditioning. So that's always an important thing to have. Another unique fact I like about these cars, or find interesting about these cars, is they started making things electric. So if you turn the key to the on position, there's a button right here to open the glove box. And the weirdest quirk is they decided to put the fuse box inside the glove box. So if the fuse for the glove box opener goes out, you're really kind of screwed. This car was sold new to Steve Barney, the owner of Foreign Cars Italia, which was the authorized Ferrari dealer for Greensboro. It was then driven by Steve Barney and Gerald Roosh, the founder of Ferrari Market Letter, on a 1,500-mile tour of Europe. This car was then imported into the US and legalized to US EPA and DOT specs by Amerispec. It was then sold to Dick Fritz, the team manager of the NART race team. When you're looking to buy your new sports car, you're looking for a combination of beautiful styling and good handling and great power. And this car really has it all. It's a beautiful design. It handles like it's glued to the road, and it has plenty of torque in all the gears. So when you're looking to buy your new car, this is definitely a great option in that price point where it's expensive, but you're getting a real Enzo era Ferrari. And it's not one of those $1 million cars that you're kind of scared to drive because they're so expensive. So this is definitely one of those cars that it's user-friendly and is just an awesome experience. So I hope you enjoyed this video, maybe learned a little bit about the Boxers, and I can't wait to show you what we have coming up next.